Hello, parents and students. Today, in this video, we're going to be looking at the organization of the Schoology site for honors and regular chemistry at MAST Academy. Whether your student has Mr. Pendola or Ms. Jones-Roberts, the basic organization of Schoology is going to be the same. If you have not done so already, we highly recommend watching the video that explains how the class is structured so that everything we discuss today can make more sense. But let's get right into it. So if we look at the Schoology website, this being my first period Schoology, we can see a number of things right off the bat. The very top of the Schoology site will have any announcements that the teachers has been trying to make to your students throughout the year. So for example, here we can see that I'm asking my classes to bring headphones on Monday and Tuesday. If you want to see the full list of updates, you can click on updates on the side and it will have every update made on the Schoology thus far this year. Going back to the landing page, which is our materials page, this is where most of the information for the course is going to be found. Assignments, unit notes, worksheets, everything will be found on this landing page. So on the side here, on the right side, we can see that we have a list of all upcoming exams, quizzes, and assignments and due dates for the course. Exams and quizzes are added by the teacher. As we can remember, just because an exam is not posted on here does not mean that there won't be one. Exams and quizzes are always announced during class, and it is the responsibility of the student to make sure they write down those dates so they can remember. However, we do try to, as much as possible, put those dates on Schoology just as an extra layer of reminder for our students. If you would like to see the full calendar for the class, we can click up here on this calendar symbol. And we can see here how we have every exam and deadline that is coming up for the class. From the different assignments, like the review packet and the Ed puzzle, to quizzes and tests that are coming up later in the month. So we can get to assignments by clicking on these. However, that is not how we actually suggest the students find assignments. As if something does not have a due date or the due date has passed and they miss class, it won't show up here on the side. These are only things that are upcoming, not things that have passed. In this main section of Schoology, we can see a number of things. For example, at the top, we see the Ed puzzle assignment that the students will be doing. With Ed puzzle assignments, these are things that we usually have our students watch to fulfill their historical portion of their science background and science knowledge. So for this kind of assignments, if we click on this, it should take the student to their Ed puzzle site. If this was a student's account, they will be logged in right into the account and could watch the video and answer the questions right away. So those are for any Ed puzzle type assignments. Now, for the majority of class, however, if we scroll down, we can see that there's a number of folders. The core documents folder, for example, contains all of the documents that the students will need throughout every single unit. So if we click here, for example, the only thing we have right now is that periodic table that the students can click on. They can view on Schoology, and they can also download by clicking the download button on the top right. If I wanted to go back to the main page, I can click on materials or on the class title. And then if I scroll down, the more important things that the students will access through Schoology are the unit folders. If I click on the unit 2 folder, for example, 3 different subfolders will come up, and these are very important for your student to access. The first folder we have here is our guided notes folder. This folder contains the guided notes for each section or each lecture that we will give for Unit 2. It is highly recommended that if a student does not know how to take notes or they're uncomfortable taking notes quickly, that they either download or print out these guided notes to fill out as the lecture goes on. As I mentioned in the other video, lectures and PowerPoints are not provided to the students. We believe that they need the skill of taking notes for their future in college. And so we can start guiding them by offering these guided notes for them. For example, if I go to the Unit 2 Section 1 guided notes and I click on them, you'll see that the guided notes are filled in with some information, but they leave the most important information blank for our students to fill in on their own. This teaches them to take note on only the important aspects of the lectures, and so this makes for much quicker notes and much more accessible notes when they're studying. If a student would like to use these notes in the lecture, they could go up here and hit download and download them right into their computer to fill out electronically, or they could print them out and bring them to class to fill in with just a regular pencil or pen. Now, we do recommend that if students are filling this in electronically, they use something like an Apple Pencil or a Samsung Pen if they're using a Samsung tablet, because as we go through the class, some of the material becomes harder and harder to type as we go into drawings and mathematics. If a student does not have an Apple Pencil or a Samsung Pen, we are obviously not recommending that they go out and buy one. These notes can easily be printed and brought to class if they wish to. If I go back to the Unit 2 folder, so again, if I go to the main landing page of Schoology and I go to the Unit 2 folder, the next orange folder will have the section practice problems and answers. And you can see it says ungraded in parentheses. If I go in here, I have a folder for each section. After each lecture, the students are given worksheets to fill out as practice problems. These worksheets are given to them physically, printed out already by us at the end of the lecture. But if I go, for example, the Unit 2 Section 1 folder here, I can actually find a digital copy of that worksheet as well in case the student has lost a worksheet or was not present in class. They can have access to the worksheet. Now, along with these worksheets are not going to be submitted for any kind of credit. These are for practice purposes only, so the students can internalize what they have learned in class. Along with the section worksheets, if I again go into Unit 2 Section 1 folder, we can find the homework answers. So that same worksheet I just showed you, I can open it up and open up the answer key to that worksheet, and I can find all the answers to these problems. The idea is that after the lecture, the students will complete the worksheets, both in class and at home, depending on how much time we have left in class. And then once they are done, they will check their answers. This serves two purposes. One, if the student is at home and they get stuck doing the worksheet without the teacher present, they can always check the answer key to at least get an idea of what their answer should look like. Two, this makes sure that the students are actually learning what they're supposed to and don't have any misconceptions. If a student goes into this worksheet and sees their answer does not match the answer in the answer key, they are encouraged to ask their teacher for an explanation, and we will sit there for 5, 10, 20 minutes and explain to them and walk them through the process. This allows us to have as much one-on-one time with your student as possible to explain the more complex topics in chemistry. But again, that is dependent on the students completing the worksheet and checking their answers. So again, those are within the section practice problems and answers and graded folder. Finally, the last folder in every unit folder will be the assignments and activities, or the graded folder. The graded folder in Schoology is where we hold everything for that unit that has a grade attached to it. If I open this, right now you can see there are 3 things in here, and this will not always show up right away. Some of this will show up as we assign the different activities and the different packets for the students. The first type of homework you'll find, the first type of assignment you will find, is an activity. These are things that we usually do in class that have a component that needs to be turned in. So usually some kind of activity or lab assignment for your students. So let's go over what an assignment looks like on Schoology. If we look at this, the first thing that we see here is the atomic structure activity, which is the title of this activity. We will then see a due date. This first due date is the due date most students should be following. Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 for this particular assignment by midnight. Most students will follow this assigned due date, and they should submit their work before midnight on that day. If they do not, their assignment will be considered late and could have a penalty of anywhere from 20% deduction all the way to getting a 0 for that assignment, depending on what the assignment is. So very important for our students to know that's the due date for most students. If a student has extended time due to a 504 or an IEP, the due date for the extended time students is posted right below the standard due date, and it's usually highlighted in yellow. That due date is only to be used by students who have a 504 or an IEP with an extended time accommodation. Students with extended time accommodations have until this extended time due date to submit their work. And if they need more time beyond this due date, they are to ask their teacher either through email or in person before this deadline. And that's very important. The assignment has a deadline even for the extended time students. And if a student who has extended time needs more time than the one stated on the extended time due date, they need to ask their teacher for an extension before that deadline. If they do not, even with their extended time accommodation, that homework assignment or activity will be considered as late and carry the same penalty as it will for a student without extended time. After that, you can see very detailed instructions as to what to do for the individual assignments. This will vary from assignment to assignment, from lab to homework to packet. And so it's very important for the students to read these for every single assignment they complete, because if a student does not follow these instructions, they will be penalized. At the very end, we have in every single assignment a warning addressing students cheating or AI use. We take academic integrity very important at MAST Academy. So students who are caught cheating or who are caught using AI applications for their work without prior teacher approval will carry a severe punishment, usually along the lines of getting 2 zeros for an assignment and a referral. And that can all be seen here in this outlined warning as to academic integrity. If we keep scrolling, the student will see the rubric for this assignment. The rubric can tell a student exactly how this assignment is being graded, what are they getting points for, and so it's a very useful tool as a last checkbox to make sure that they're going to get full credit for an assignment. And then lastly, at the very bottom, we have a virtual file of that assignment. For example, if I click here, I can download this particular assignment as a Word document, and I can download the assignment and open it up for me to go through. The students, where it says submission here on the right, I can see it because I am on a teacher account, but they will have a submission button that they can press and to submit their work. They can submit their work either through here or through their Schoology apps on their phone, which we highly suggest that they download if that is a possibility for them. Going back to the graded section. So that was an example of an activity. Labs will look very similar to that activity. At the end of every unit, after we have covered all of the sections, we will assign the students, usually to do in class, although from time to time we do assign it as homework, a unit review packet. The review packet is very similar to the practice questions, but it is graded. So that review packet will always be given in class as a physical copy and then submitted here through Schoology, either at the end of the day or depending on how large the packet is, the day after. So again, I can see here, this is the Unit 2 review packet. I can again see my standard due date for most students. This particular packet, for example, will be due on Tuesday, September 24th at 11:59 p.m. I can see my extended time due date for students with extended time accommodations in their 504 or IEPs. And so I can see that the extended time for this particular assignment is on September 25th at 11:59 p.m. And then again, I can see all my instructions for the assignment and that disclaimer I talked about for academic integrity. This particular assignments are going to be a pass-fail assignment, meaning that if they are completed in their entirety and submitted before the deadline, the student will get 100% on this assignment as long as they submit it as a PDF with their name on it and follow all our standard rules. The content itself is not graded for this assignment because, again, the students are practicing their content knowledge that they learned for their upcoming exams. And so we don't believe in punishing a student for making a mistake while they're practicing. However, if a student turns this in late, not as a PDF, or has no name on it, or has something that is not completed, that student will receive a 0 for the assignment. So as long as they are done correctly and all the rules are followed, students should be getting 100% for all of these assignments. Again, I can see in the very bottom, there's the PDF file of the review packet. I can open that, I can show here, and the students should be able to follow along and look at the whole review packet and download and print if they have lost their packet that was handed out in class, or if they were not in class physically. And this assignment will be submitted just like all the others. Now, on the night that this assignment is due, right at midnight, when this assignment's deadline has passed, the other thing that will go up in this assignment and activities or graded folder is a folder with the answers to the review packet. Just like their practice problems, we ask the students that once they complete the review packet and they turn it in and the answers are made available, they can click on that folder and download or open the answer key for that assignment, and they can check all their work and their answers. The goal here is that the student, again, this is like a final check where they will make sure they know all the information, that they know it correctly, and then they will submit it to us and ask us any questions before the exam in the coming classes. And so it's a final check for them to make sure they know all of the information they need to for that test. So that is all of the generic files and folders and different parts of Schoology that we use in class. Again, we highly recommend that you watch the prior video on the structure of the class if you have not done so already, so this will make a little more sense. There are a number of other links that the students can follow on the left here. We do not really recommend that they use any of these beyond the materials and the updates, as things like grades will be posted on Gradebook, and the rest of these apps will be included into their assignments if we ever need them. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself, Mr. Pendola, or Ms. Jones Roberts to ask us any questions or any help that you may need with your students in our classes. And as a final note, please be aware that as a parent, you can make an account on Schoology to follow along with all of your students' information, classes, and assignments they have coming up. Thank you so much for watching this video, and have a good night.